Donald Trump is crashing the economy straight into the ground. With absurd, across-the-board tariffs, he and the richest man in the world are continuing their campaign to slash and burn our government, firing veterans, choking off cancer research, firing the people who make sure products like eye drops are safe, and gutting the Department of Education. Did you know we stopped testing for bird flu in our milk thanks to Elon's cuts? Meanwhile, Republicans are cheering Trump and Musk on as they insist we need to accept devastating cuts and mass firings to rein in our debt. But at the very same time, they are pushing forward on Trump's #1 legislative priority in Congress, tax cuts for billionaires, which would explode the deficit. Look, I've chaired the budget committee before, and I've negotiated tough budget deals, so I'm going to try and explain exactly what Republicans are up to for you. Last week, Senate Republicans passed their budget blueprint to do this, their budget resolution, as it's called, and soon the House will be voting on it as well. So let's talk for a moment about what the Republican budget blueprint means for you. If you are hoping it'll make childcare more affordable for parents or tackle our housing crisis, you're going to be sorely disappointed, because this budget leaves regular people with crumbs. It will, however, do a whole heck of a lot for billionaires like Donald Trump and Elon Musk and the rest of the billionaires in his cabinet. Because what it sets Republicans up to do is to pass $5.3 trillion, yes, that is trillion, with a T, in new tax cuts for billionaires and the super rich. And in order to pay for just a slice of their billionaire tax breaks, Republicans plan to tease them up to slash Medicaid. They're going to kick kids and seniors and families off health care and cut off nutritional assistance that keeps our kids from going hungry. That's the Republican plan. Blow up the debt, give more tax cut to billionaires, gut health care and food assistance for families. Now, Republicans know these cuts will hurt their own constituents, people in blue and red states alike. But as we've already seen, when Donald Trump calls to bully Republicans into voting for his big, beautiful bill, it's apparently easier to bend the knee rather than actually fight for and protect your constituents. Republicans will try to spin the truth and pretend they aren't putting essential programs on the chopping block. But the reality is you cannot make cuts as large as they want to without kicking millions of kids and families off of their health care through deep cuts to Medicaid, or taking food off the plates of hungry children. And again, Republicans want to make these cuts at the very same time they hand the super rich trillions more in tax cuts. And here's the incredible thing. They're pretending these tax cuts will cost nothing. Look, I've been around long enough to know that Republicans blowing up our national debt to give billionaires and the biggest corporations new tax breaks is nothing new. Republican-authored tax cuts are, after all, the single biggest driver of our debt since 2001. But what is new is that they want to pretend that their billionaire tax giveaways are somehow now free. Seriously. To pass this bill without Democrats, Republicans are using a process known as budget reconciliation, which is very complicated, but what you need to know is it allows them to pass a bill like this with a simple majority in the Senate instead of the usual 60 votes. But they know they can't make their trillion-dollar tax breaks for billionaires permanent under the long-standing budget rules for budget reconciliation. So they are planning to use a ridiculous budget gimmick to get around these rules and pretend their tax giveaways are somehow free. It's kind of next level stuff. But don't be fooled. Magical thinking will not make $3.8 trillion of their $5.3 trillion tax cuts somehow free. You know, I used to teach preschool, and you know what my kids wouldn't struggle with? Understanding the difference between $0 and $3.8 trillion. That money has to come from somewhere. And it's all going to either come from the pockets of working families or simply add to our debt for future generations to pay for. That's the Republican plan. And get this, their tax plan will add more than $37 trillion to our debt over 30 years. And that is trillion with a T. Republicans have shown time and again they are entirely focused on their billionaire class agenda, and they do not care if middle-class families foot that bill. And their Senate budget plan is just the latest example of how far they are willing to go. Some Republicans will try to mislead Americans and say, oh, we're cutting taxes for middle-class families too. Well, here's the truth, just barely. But, and this is a very important but, any tax cuts for working and middle-class Americans will be completely negated by the tax hikes Trump is imposing with his tariffs, because Republican tax cuts will overwhelmingly favor billionaires, not regular people, just like Trump's first tax cuts. And when you factor in the average cost a regular family is expected to absorb from Trump's tariffs, you're going to come up with a net loss. 70% of the benefits will go to the top 5%, while costs go up for the bottom 40%. So if you're not one of the richest Americans in this country, you're going to almost undoubtedly have less money in your pocket thanks to Trump. It's tough to credit one president with an economy's recovery or downturn. But in this instance, Trump inherited an historically strong economy, and he is single-handedly destroying it. And Republicans are letting him. All the while, the billionaires in question are running the most corrupt administration in American history. Elon Musk, an unelected billionaire, is running amok through the federal government, firing people with no idea what they do, pushing out our veterans without so much as a thank you, blocking and ripping away funding Congress passed, canceling contracts that serve our communities. And now Republicans are banding together to turn a blind eye and hand billionaires like Musk more tax breaks. Well, I'm not having it. If they pass this budget blueprint in the House, they'll still have to negotiate the actual nuts and bolts of this legislation before they put anything on the floor to pass into law. So if you don't agree with what is going on, now is the time to speak up, get loud, raise the alarm, and you can bet I will be doing what I can to keep fighting back against this administration using your money to fill the pockets of billionaires.